There's a conversation many people avoid, not because it's unimportant, but because it's uncomfortable. Pornography. A multi-billion-dollar industry that has quietly woven itself into the daily lives of millions. Studies in recent years have shown that over 70% of men and more than 30% of women report viewing pornography at least once a month. For many, it begins in adolescence, long before they understand intimacy, consent, or self-worth. But behind the screen, behind the clicks, there's a cost, one we rarely talk about. One of the biggest impacts, and one I didn't recognize in myself for a long time, is how pornography changes the way we see people. Not intentionally, not maliciously, but gradually, quietly. When you're constantly exposed to content that treats people like objects, your brain starts to follow that pattern. Researchers have found that repeated exposure to pornography can increase objectification, where people, especially women, are viewed less as human beings and more as instruments for pleasure or dominance. That's the power pornography has. It doesn't just shape desire, it shapes perception. So when I talk about the impact pornography can have, I'm not merely an outsider looking in. I'm speaking as someone who's lived it. I want to be honest with you. This isn't just information to me. I was introduced to porn from a friend in middle school and watched porn for years afterwards. By the time I entered college, it wasn't curiosity anymore. It was just a habit I couldn't control. I stopped seeing people as people. I compared every woman to what I saw. I felt ashamed of myself, disconnected, and angry. It was like I was living as two different people. I tried to quit everything on my own, but the cycle of shame kept me where I was. I knew I needed help. I didn't know what else to do. So I did something I never did. I prayed, and something changed. Not instantly, not magically, but deeply. I felt this sense of being seen, like I didn't have to carry the same shame alone. It was the first moment in years where I felt okay when I thought about pornography. Jesus gave me a way forward when I couldn't find one myself. That moment didn't erase my struggles overnight, but it gave me hope. It gave me direction, and it reminded me that the healing is possible, even when you feel too far gone. And the truth is, what I went through isn't rare. There's a real psychological weight behind all of this, one that affects far more people than we tend to admit. My experience opened my eyes to something bigger, the emotional and mental patterns that so many people silently struggle with. Psychologists have documented a range of issues associated with compulsive pornography use. Not because they're trying to shame anyone, but because the data keeps pointing to the same patterns. Research shows that people who feel stuck in compulsive pornography are up to 3 times more likely to report symptoms of anxiety and depression. Couples where pornography becomes a hidden part of the relationship consistently report more conflict, less trust, and lower emotional intimacy. Studies show that frequent pornography use is linked to lower self-esteem and increased body dissatisfaction for both men and women. Researchers have found that pornography can distort expectations of intimacy, making real relationships feel less satisfying or less exciting compared to what the brain has been conditioned to expect. About 1 in 5 regular users report feeling guilt or shame connected to their use, and secrecy only deepens the isolation. Trust me. For some people, the brain begins to respond to pornography the same way it responds to other compulsive behaviors, seeking novelty, escalating consumption, and struggling to stop even when they want to. And when you're in it, you don't always realize how much it's shaping you. I didn't. I thought I was just dealing with a habit. But habits shape thinking, and thinking shapes identity. We live in a world where screens are always within the reach. content is instant, and algorithms learn what we want before we even can think about it. And pornography fits perfectly into that system. Research shows that highly stimulating digital content, including porn, triggers dopamine in the brain, pushing us to seek more novelty. Over time, that constant novelty can desensitize the brain's reward pathways, making everyday experiences feel less exciting. Studies also show that the heavy digital consumption is linked to reduced attention, increasing impulsivity and difficulty staying present. And when that pattern gets tied to something as personal as intimacy, it changes the way we connect. Pornography doesn't just live on a screen. It shapes expectations, relationships, and the way we see people, often without us even realizing it. And beyond the psychological impact on viewers, there's another layer we don't talk about enough. Behind the screens, the pornography industry has a long history of exploitation, investigation, and testimonies of former performers that have revealed coercion, manipulation, unsafe working conditions, pressure to perform acts they were never agreed to, the lack of mental health support, emotional trauma long after leaving the industry. But one of the darkest realities is this. Investigations over the years have uncovered cases where minors were filmed, trafficked, and exploited. Some of the largest platforms in the world have been forced to remove millions of videos because they couldn't verify the ages or consent of the people in them.
Every one of those red dot maps is a unique IP address that is downloaded, shared, or distributing child rape images, almost all under the age of 12. And that's just a 6-month screenshot of it, and there are over 338,000 on there. There's blue dots on there. You can't really see them, but the blue ones are the ones that are under investigation.
In a sea of red.
Isn't that a problem of what we're talking about?
They're not isolated stories. They're patterns. Patterns that reflect a system built on demand. Demand that often comes from people who never intended to support harm. I didn't think about any of this when I was watching. Most people don't, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. I'm not sharing any of this to shame anyone. Shame is what kept me stuck for years. This is about awareness. Awareness of how we treat ourselves. Awareness of how we treat others. Awareness of the system we support, intentionally or not. If pornography has impacted you, you're not alone. You're not broken, and you're not beyond healing. For me, healing began the moment I said the name of Jesus, and I asked for help. And for others, it starts with honesty, community, therapy, or simply acknowledging the problem exists for the first time. Whatever your path looks like, there is a path. Behind every screen is a person. Behind every statistic is a story. And behind every choice is a consequence. The question isn't whether pornography exists. The question is whether we're willing to see the truth behind it and what we choose to do next. The end. All right.